it's Chris. Welcome back to my channel. I'm in a different area, as you can see. So you can see, this is my bay window, so you can see all the lights that are in my house. You can kind of see my house too. There's my air conditioner. There's my slider back there. So my last video, I had asked you guys if there was any questions and topics that you wanted me to cover, and I'm going to be covering them like a few at a time. And I don't know if I'm liking this window thing here, so you guys let me know if you want me to sit on the other side of the couch or if this window thing is cool with you guys. I don't know. I don't really like it, and I have a couple questions, and I'm going to do a couple at a time. So anytime you guys have questions or things you want me to discuss, post them in the comments. And please, guys, don't forget to subscribe. I've lost quite a few subscribers, which obviously, I mean, I was gone for, 2 years? Hello, that's going to happen. If you guys know people who know people, let them know I'm back. I do not post on my Facebook, and this is going to be one of the questions that I answer. But due to, that is basically my personal page. I have, like I mentioned in the last video, I have turned my life back over to the Lord, and I also work with my church. So I do not want my personal business up on my Facebook, like to advertise or whatever the deal is, or let people know. And we're going to be talking about some sensitive topics too. So, that's not something that I really, like I said, that I want to do. I am hoping to be doing some reviews and stuff, but right now these are just going to be sit-down chit-chat videos. So the first question was from Jamie Lynn. Hello, girl. She had this was a 3-parter question, and she said, after 7 years, she's talking about my relationship with Marin, because in my last video, we are no longer together. We've been broken up for 2 years now, probably closer to 3 years at this point. We've been broken up. After 7 years, how did you discover your relationship was not working? And then she has part 2 and 3. It was sort of at the 5-year mark. We had at the 5-year mark, things that, first of all, the one thing I can suggest to you guys, if you're looking into a relationship, make sure you guys cover your deal breakers. It's really important. When Marin and I first got together, I told him that I was never getting married. That was a deal breaker. And because I've been married and divorced twice, and I was never having kids, which I couldn't have children. I had my tubes tied, so that wasn't an option for me. And keep in mind, guys, there was a 13-year difference between him and I. I was 13 years older than him, so that's a big gap. So I was in my 40s, and he was in his, I think when we met, late 20s and then early 30s, and I thought I did my part, right? I laid it out on the line, and he said, okay, not a problem. And I believed him, which, and at that time, maybe he honestly meant it. Maybe he really, that's how he felt. It was okay with him. But just make sure, if for example, if you have a type, like I don't have a type. I mean, I've dated tall, skinny, big, blonde, brunette, has money, doesn't have money. Doesn't really matter to me one way or the other. That'd be like someone saying to me, I only date girls that are above 5'5", and I'm only 4'10". Well, then why are you going to date me? But then them saying, oh, but I'll date you. It's like, I'm only 4'10". I cannot miraculously click my fingers and, grow 5 inches. So I don't know, like, why would that be okay if that's a deal breaker for you? So really be honest with yourselves at the beginning as to what's deal breakers. And actually, have a conversation. I know so many people who don't even have conversations. So I thought by putting all this out on the table, I was doing my part. Now, do I think that he was, when he said okay, do I think he was lying? No, I think that it was something that he honestly thought that he could live with. And I'm talking about any deal breakers. So I'm not going to talk anything bad about him at all. I still have love for him. I wish we could be friends. We can't. I mentioned that in the last video, that he just has no interest in being my friend. And that's fine. There's nothing that I can do about that. But definitely talk about deal breakers. And if there's a deal breaker, do not in any way, shape, or form think that you're going to change that, or it may change in the future. Like, might it change in the future? Possibly, but be honest, 9 times out of 10, that is not going to change. And I know you guys are going to say, yes, Chris, but you got engaged. Like, you said you would never get married again, but you got engaged. I'll get to that. There's some things in this that I am not very proud of myself for, but I am going to take accountability where I feel I need to take accountability. I cannot really speak for him, obviously. I don't know what was going through his head. All I know is what came out of his mouth. But as we know, with everybody, myself included, sometimes what comes out of our mouth is what we want the other person to hear because we want to make the other person happy. So, but it's not actually how we feel. That's another thing that I would say really steer clear of, because if you're trying to make, if something's going against your core values, but even not core values, but going against what you believe or whatever the deal is, and you are saying it's fine when it's not, that's only going to exacerbate and get worse. And then you're going to build up resentment. So I think that was something that I did later on in the relationship, but he did it early on in the relationship. And then we kind of flip-flopped. Everything was great for about 5 years. After about 5 years, we just started to fight about everything. Like, every little thing was a fight. And could I even tell you what it was about half the time? No. But when I say fight, I mean like knock down, drag out, screaming at each other for hours. And then the next day, to him, this is how he dealt with the situation. He'd come home from work with a coffee, because you guys remember he brought me Starbucks every single day. Came home with coffee for both of us, and nothing had happened. It was as if nothing happened. And I'd be sitting there in my head going, really? You got 2 hours of sleep last night, and I'm still upset, and we're not going to even discuss this? Do I remember what the fight was about now? Like, no, I don't, but regardless. That's one thing I would have to say is don't ever settle, and don't be a yes person. I'm not saying if there's things that you can change, I'm not saying don't be open-minded or that could change in the future, or something that maybe you're on the fence about. Like, say it's having kids. I couldn't. But if you don't want to have kids, but it could be something that you just never really thought about it. Right now in this moment, you don't want to have children, and I know that's a big one, but I'm just trying to give you guys an example. But in the future, it's not like you've totally taken it off the table and you don't ever. There's people who vehemently do not want to have children, and that's perfectly okay. But then you don't get into a relationship with somebody that wants to have kids. And especially, like, don't not have that conversation before you get in a relationship with somebody. It seems like common sense, but it's really not. And I think we did that ourselves. I felt that by me saying no kids and me saying, never getting married, like, I had covered all my bases. But he said, okay, like, that was fine. And I took him for his word. That's kind of like my problem, is I take people for their word. Like, I don't know this guy, so at the beginning, so maybe he's not interested in that. Maybe he just has no interest in that whatsoever, and it's not an issue. We can live together for the rest of our lives and be happy, and he doesn't really like kids. I don't know, I mean, well, it wouldn't be with somebody who doesn't like kids, because I had kids, in the house at the time, but regardless. So he was always wonderful to my children. But after the 5-year mark, I would say we kind of started to flip-flop. He started to get more vocal about things he didn't like. And it was all surprise to me, because I thought we had covered all these things. I thought that was covered. Like, we had that conversation. And when you ever have a conversation with somebody, you think it's squashed and buried, and then all of a sudden it comes up again, and there's a problem. And that's kind of what our fights would be. We would fight about something and then talk about it and think it was squashed and buried, and then it would come up again. And then it would come up again. And then it would come up again. And I'm like, why do we keep I remember saying that, like, oh my God, like, why does this keep coming up? Why is this still an issue? I don't understand. How many times are we going to talk about this? Why is nothing changing? What is the deal here? I started to notice it at the 5-year mark. Now, I'm going to be 100% honest with you guys. I believe I've always been very transparent on my channel. I've been a very transparent person. For those of you who are just joining me, hello, please subscribe. Tell your friends that I'm back and post any questions that you would like to know for next topics below, please. I thought I was very clear about it, but he started becoming more vocal. And this was stuff that would drive me nuts because I thought we covered it. I thought it was covered and dead and buried. Like, I'm the kind of person, like, I need to talk about something immediately. If something's bothering me, I'm the kind of person, I need to talk about it immediately and then just squash it. Like, okay, I'm not someone who can really sit on it and wait for the right time or whatever. And that's where my part of this situation comes in. I know I have more parts. If you talk to him, I'm sure I had a million parts. I can't tell you what those parts are because I'm not him. So, but I know one of my parts was that he really knew how to push my buttons, and he would. And I knew better than to respond or go nuts, but he knew my triggers, he knew how to push my buttons, and he would, and I would just go off. And that was never a good situation, and it was, yelling and screaming for hours at a time, and him kind of laughing about it and saying, oh, look, you're the crazy one. Look at you. You're acting like a maniac. Well, yeah, I was acting like a maniac. Looking back on it now, though, it's like, yeah, you pushed my buttons, but I'm also an adult, and I should know you're pushing my buttons, and I should walk away. But I was not good at walking away. Even my therapist would say, walk away and go upstairs and just let it be until you have time to calm down, and then you guys can discuss. But I would get so mad. Like, I tried it a couple times, and I was just, like, fuming. I'd be upstairs fuming, and then I'd come down, like, to get a drink or something like that, and he's just sitting on the couch, as if he, and in my head, I'm going, oh my gosh, like, this isn't even bothering you at all. I mean, and I'm so mad, right? This isn't even bothering you at all. You're just living your best life on the couch. And it was stuff that I would suppress and suppress and suppress. And I'm just not good at it. I'm not good at it. And I don't like I don't want to say I don't like confrontation. I don't like conflict. So, like, and that sounds, what I just said about us fighting all the time, it sounds, like, no, you do like conflict. No, but sometimes when you try to resolve something, you get conflict. And neither one of us really knew how to do conflict well. I'll admit that I don't know how to do conflict well. His goal of conflict was sort of like, pretend it didn't happen. Push buttons, run away. Or let's fight for 3 hours, and then the next day, come home with coffee as if nothing happened. And let's not even discuss it. Where I'm sitting here still holding on to it, right? Holding on to all this. So the communication just started to really break down. One thing I will say for Marin, though, is that he was always, this flip-flopped. And this was another thing that drove me nuts. I take people at their word. And so, which I don't know if that's dumb of me or naive or not. I've more in the last couple years not been a word person, more of an action person. And I've done that in my own life too. Like, I'm not going to just give somebody words. I'm going to follow it up with action, because anybody can say words. And do they mean it? Yeah, they might. But if they don't follow it up with action, then the words don't really matter, right? We just got into this almost everyday fighting situation, and he was very supportive. I mean, I'm going to bring up the financial aspect first. So financially, after 5 years, we were miserable. Were there good times in that last 2 years? Of course there were. You could look at my Facebook. None of those times, I have not removed any single picture off Facebook unless he's untagged me from stuff. I'm no longer friends with him on Facebook. I mentioned this yesterday or last video that I would like to be friends with him, but now he's got another girlfriend, and he likes the way things are. He wished me a happy birthday. My birthday was yesterday, the 14th, and he messaged me today on the 15th. Well, I don't know when it is. This is going to be when you're watching, but and wished me a happy birthday. He said, so I'm so sorry this is late, but happy birthday. And we had just a quick text exchange. That was it. Thank you very much. I wish I hope you and your family stay blessed and safe. Same to you. That's about it. That's all we really do. But he did reach out and wish me a happy birthday. So it was very sweet. But financially, so like at the 5-year mark, things started to go bad. But at that point, and you have to remember, and I'm not making excuses at all. So Marin made really good money. And I think from the gifts and stuff that you guys saw, you know that. I live on Social Security disability income. And so did we split bills? Yeah. He paid certain bills and I paid certain bills. So, but the majority was his. Obviously, you can't make it 50-50 when someone makes, brings in $19,000 a year and someone brings in $100,000 a year. Like, obviously that doesn't, work. He was very generous with his money. But when you grow up, I don't want to say grow up poor because my family was not poor, but I made poor choices in my life, and that led me to be poor and to not just poor choices, but mental health issues and stuff like that. But yeah, marrying the wrong guys, and then and so when you're on welfare most of your life, and you get food stamps, and you all this other stuff, and then you become disabled at a young age and everything like that. It's you're not living the life. You're not like, oh my gosh, my life is as far as monetarily wise, and things that you have. So I remember, even the first gift he gave me, I don't remember what the gift was, but it felt really weird to me because I was so used to dating guys that took from me. And when I didn't even have anything to give, but they managed, it was the last $5 in my pocket, they managed to get it from me, So it was very, but stuff like your kids' braces or stuff that I never would have been able to do or afford, or if I did, I'd still be paying it off. He was able to front that and pay for it. And he was very, very generous in that. All Christmas gifts came from him. All birthday gifts came from him. I mean, obviously, he was always like, it's our money. So, obviously, it's from us. But did I monetarily out of my bank account spend that? No, that was him. But that was something that became a bone of contention because at the 5-year mark, I think we got to the point where we just couldn't overlook things anymore. And I don't want to say we were looking for fights, but they really did seem to happen. We went to therapy at least 3 times, and I just don't think that was something that Marin even believed in. He just did it to make me happy. And so when you're doing, especially therapy and counseling, couples counseling for that, if you're not actually present or you don't want to actually participate, are you going to get anything out of that? No. Is the relationship going to change? No. So, that didn't work, obviously. And around the 5-year mark, were there times where I thought about ending it? Yeah. But at that point, we had moved from a place that I could afford to a place I absolutely could not afford. And I was stuck. I kind of felt stuck. I mean, did I still love him? Absolutely. Did I still want things to work? Absolutely. 100%. But things were getting progressively worse. Things that we used to find funny, our funny little quirks about each other, now drove us both nuts. He never really, as much of a parent as he was to my children, and he was wonderful. I'm just using this as an example. Something that used to bother me is that, and I could sure you could give you a laundry list of what would bother him, but I'm not him, so obviously I can't. But yeah, I'm sure my nagging of him would be one or something, I can be naggy. We mind someone to do something and everything. But he kind of liked that too. I don't know. But he was very jealous too. So as you guys know, I was in the vape industry. And so most of, he went to every convention with me and stuff like that. And most of the time that was, it cost a lot of money. It was not cheap. And that was on his dime. I did get a credit card, and towards the end, because I was tired of him having to pay for everything out of pocket. I just didn't think it was fair because it was my thing. But he went along with it, and I think he made some friends. I mean, I don't think it's anybody that he normally would have hung out with. But there are people that I hung out with, and a lot of them I'm still friendly with to this day. But it was like, who you talking to? Oh my gosh, like, you're going to be on another live show. You're going to be, like, this YouTube thing is going crazy. Like, why do oh my goodness, blah, blah, blah. And then then he would go out and buy me, a new ring light and a new camera and, new mic and I'm like, so it was a lot of mixed messages. So I think he was struggling with it in his mind. Again, I'm not speaking for him. The only thing that I can think of is that he was struggling in his mind because he wanted to make me happy and he really wanted to support me, but it was something that was bothering him also. So I don't know if any of you guys have ever been in that kind of situation. So at that point now, if I was thinking of breaking up with him, I really felt stuck because what am I going to do? Be homeless? Because I knew if we broke up, he would be going to move back with his parents. And now I can't cover rent. I'm like, I don't understand. What can I do? And we didn't have a living situation. We didn't have bedrooms where I could, Dante lived with me, where I could get in a roommate there or something to help defray the costs or anything like that. Just wasn't going to happen. So I was just like, oh my goodness, what am I going to do? So that was a factor. And, and I'm kind of sad about it. It's not something that makes me feel really good. But if any of you have been in that situation, it's just reality. And sometimes, there's people who get divorced and still live together. Like they've been married and for 30 years, get divorced and then date in the same house. You know what I mean? Like other people, because money-wise, they just can't make it on their own. Like, it's a thing. So, I think the biggest things were, as the kids started to get older, when they were younger, I'm mostly talking about Carson, my grandson, and Dante, because Chelsea was, pretty much an adult herself. But as they started to get older, it became a matter of, I had always wanted at the beginning, and this is where my fault comes in to the situation, is that at the beginning when you first meet somebody, super defensive, especially having been married and divorced twice already, super defensive as far as you are not going to, like, if anybody had something bad to say about my kids, because I had brought my men in and out of my kids' lives, and it's something that I'm not proud of, and so I was going to avoid that at all costs. So what I did was the total opposite, which is, don't you say anything to my kids. I'm their parent. Or if you had anything bad to say, like, we would get into an argument about it. And at the beginning, I was very, very defensive about that. Whether he was right, wrong, or different, it needed to come from me. So I sent mixed messages in that sense, because then once the relationship was established, I knew he wasn't going anywhere. I knew he wasn't going to abandon me. I was all the things that, were going on in my head. I knew he loved my kids, whatever. I then wanted him to become, have more of a parenting role, especially when you don't, step parents are very important, but especially when you don't have a good, like, co-parenting situation with their actual parents. I wanted him to. And it was always a matter of, he always seemed to have a problem, but he was not comfortable. And again, that's probably my fault. He was not comfortable telling them. He would tell me, he would complain to me, but I would say, like, well, she's over there. Like, she's right next door. Go say something if you have such a problem. And he wouldn't. And so then I had to be the bad guy. And that used to make me mad because at the time, I thought he was just lazy. But you know what? Maybe not. Maybe it's from how I acted at the beginning, and it was just something that he didn't know if he was overstepping bounds or not. But it was something that we would fight about all the time. And I do have to say, like, I would still speak up. Mama Bear would come out if he said something that I disagreed with. It was like, or he wanted to parent in some way, or he wanted to say something. And I know my kids. Nobody knows your kids better than you. So I certainly was not going to turn around and be like, oh, okay, that's fine by me if you spank my kids. Like, I never spanked my kids. No, it's not okay. You know what I mean? And it will never be okay. But there were other times where I didn't like it, but he was right, and I agreed with him, and I backed him up 100%. But yet, the delivery still had to come from me. I didn't like that. I just didn't think that was fair. It's like, because it was stuff that I necessarily didn't even think about, nor did I have a problem with, yet you're not saying something. You're making me say something when it really doesn't matter to me one way or another. Are you right? Sure, you're right. But am I losing sleep over it? No. It doesn't bother me that much, but it really bothers you. So you should say something. Anyway, so that was a big thing. I also think culturally, it was, as you guys know, he was from Croatia and Eastern European. And we just didn't. I mean, I don't know who he's dating now. If it's an American girl, I mean, like I said, I wish them all the best. I really do. I just don't see how they're very old school. And I know I don't know if I talked about this before, but they're just their culture. I love their culture. Like, don't get me wrong, I love it, but I don't want to live it. You know what I mean? Like, you've been in America for 17 years now. You have to live the American way. Am I saying abandon your culture? No, but you have to be Americanized a little bit and, you know, your core values. It just turned out that there was more to it than I really knew. And it just became something that he kind of wanted our relationship. Even when we talked marriage, I got engaged, as you guys remember. When we talked about that stuff, it was, well, when we get married, everybody joins their bank account. And even the kids put their money in, and then we just divide it as a family. We all pay for the bills. And I'm like, what? My kids are I'm never gonna take a dime from my kids I mean, at the time, they was like 14, so he didn't have a job, but it's a weird, not weird, it's foreign to me, obviously, situation. I was like, that doesn't make any sense. Like, there's no way I would have my adult kids, even if they were, like, still living with me, split, and I'm not saying I wouldn't have them split bills, because I would, because it's not a roommate situation. You're not living here for free if you're my adult child, but they wouldn't have to cipher all their money into a household bank account that I had control over and then divvy it up. So it was just a really weird situation. Like, there were a lot of things like that were just weird. Women were kind of, I have a very big personality, as you guys know, and women in that culture are really more to be seen than heard. You know, you're supposed to be in the kitchen, you're supposed to do the dishes, you're supposed to do the laundry, you're supposed to do the cleaning, you're supposed to do, the man goes to work, makes money, comes home, sits on the couch, eats your dinner, sits on the couch, does nothing. And then gets up the next morning and does the same thing. Now, if I am paying some bills and I am contributing to the household, but again, that was my fault. Again, that I have to hold accountability for that, because at the beginning, I wanted to make him feel as comfortable as he was in his own house. So it's something that I adopted, and looking back in retrospect, shouldn't have done that because it was never me. I was trying to play June Cleaver when I was really Peg Bundy. And I'm not saying like that actually helped me in many ways. Now I'm so on top of chores and this and that and everything like that there's no issues whatsoever. I'll make someone a great wife one day. You know, at the time, that was something that it started to be a bone of contention. And then I would ask certain little things like, hey, could you not put your stuff in your hamper inside out? Could you make it right side in? That's not even a word? I don't know. Because it was just a pet peeve. Like, if I'm going to do the laundry, please, you could quickly unfold your clothes, you know what I'm saying, and put them in your hamper so that when I grab them, I don't have to spend all this time putting them in the way I want to. I could just throw them in, the right way. Because he produced a lot of work clothes because his job was filthy. So that's some of the things that you don't necessarily know they're deal breakers, or you make the mistake of saying it's okay, or you adopt attitude or a way about you that is not normally of you or like you to make the other person happy, and then it just doesn't. Like the marriage thing, for example. So we got engaged. I'll be 100% honest with you guys, and I don't know if I don't think I've ever said this, is that I had no intention of marrying him. That was sort of for him. I knew he wanted to go to the next step, and I just didn't think it was necessary. But if a ring on my finger was going to make him more secure and make him feel as if I was more his, and the jealousy thing that came into play was going to help that, then that was fine. At the time of our breakup, like I said, I did not, once it was on my finger, yes, I went dress shopping, and yes, I thought about it, and that very quickly I went dress shopping, and then that very quickly changed. Like, that just wasn't something that was high on my priority list. I'm like, I'll stay engaged with you for the rest of my life and grow old with you, but I don't need a piece of paper to show you my commitment. But if this ring on my finger makes you more comfortable, but it was something that I guess maybe I thought maybe it would change, and that's why I never really said anything. Like, yeah, today I don't want to get married, but I did at the beginning when he first proposed, but now I don't, but maybe that'll change again. Just like maybe the whole relationship will get better and whatever. So what was the straw that broke the camel's back? Or what was the breaking point? The breaking point is we were toxic. It got to a point by year 6 where there was not a day that went by that we did not fight. We were miserable. We actually would try to avoid each other. When he would text me that he was no longer my safe person. And I'm not saying that like he was abusive, because he wasn't abusive or anything like that. But he gave me anxiety, and the situation gave me anxiety. And he had lost empathy for my mental health situation. I mean, he couldn't really have empathy. He didn't get it. That was another thing. He didn't get it. He put up with it, but he didn't get it. And where he used to be very there for me and would at least like rub my back or whatever the situation is, you're fine, come here, lay with me, give me a hug. It was kind of like, again, what's your problem? It kind of got to that point. And so we were and I was nitpicking at everything that he did. Oh, you left your socks on the floor again. Oh, you did this again. Oh my God. Like, can you ever do this? Like, what's the problem? Like, it just got ridiculous. And he knew how to, almost became a game. Now, not a funny game, but a sick, twisted, sadistic game where, he knew what buttons to push. And once we got into a fight, I knew what to say to like really get that person. And that's just, at that point, you need to go your own way. Now, it lasted a little longer because of the financial situation, but it got to the point where mentally, I was going to end up in a psych ward. I could not deal with it anymore because he would text me that he was on his way home, and I'd be like, oh my God, dinner's not ready. Oh my gosh. Like, I was having panic attacks. Like, you should be happy that your significant other is coming home. And instead, I was having panic attacks. What, oh my God, what did I not do around the house? What's going to be wrong today? It got nuts. And he never admitted it, but he wasn't happy either. He started to gain a lot of weight. Well, I mean, he was always a big guy, but he really, started gaining weight, and he was miserable. There was never a smile on his face. Everybody knew he was snappy towards everybody. And I mean, my kids, who he used to treat like gold, he got very snappy with them. And the breaking point for me was an argument that him and Dante had. And Dante spoke up for himself. And Maren didn't like it. And it didn't get anything physical or anything. But I could see Maren's eyes. Like, I was like, oh. Like, I was waiting. I was like, oh, gosh, this is not going to be good. He just said how disrespectful Dante was or something to that effect or whatever. And this was a point where, like, Dante had been pushed and pushed and pushed. So, like, for about a year, his relationship with Carson, if you look at my Facebook, all the pictures are of him and Carson. Like, they were best buds. Carson didn't feel comfortable coming over anymore. Like, there was just this tension in the air that was quite obvious to everybody. And not only was he lashing out at me, his attitude had changed towards everybody. He wasn't as verbal, obviously, with them. I had to live with them. But he was about them. So that was really the breaking point. And I went to my parents, and I just was hysterical. And I'm just like, I can't do this anymore. Like, I just can't do one more day of this. And that was a really hard conversation. We both really loved each other. And I just felt to myself, like, I could be stuck here and keep doing this. But my mental health is not good with this situation, and it gives me anxiety even just talking about it because it really was not a good time. It was a very amicable breakup, believe it or not. It really was. Like, during breakup, we could become, I think he moved out of there quicker than he moved in. Like, he was gone with all his stuff. He left me mostly everything except his own personal belongings, but point being is that he was gone within 3 hours, and I helped him pack and everything like that. What do you want to get rid of? What are you keeping? Whatever, and stuff. So it was fine. But like within 3 hours, he was gone. He was back. He was back at his parents. So I would think that was the breaking point. But I remember going to my parents and being like, I can't do this. Like, I know you guys don't understand because you don't live with us, but I can't. Nothing I do is right. This is causing me too much anxiety, too much stress. I can't do it. And they said, we support you. That's fine. And that was a horrible conversation that I had to have with him because I felt like 7 years is a long time. His answer to me when I said that, when I said it's over. Like, there's really nothing you could, because he's like, that's it after 7 years. I go, what do you mean that's it? Like, we've been trying for the last 2 years. We've been in counseling. We did everything we could. We're just making each other miserable. We can't get through this. Like, we just can't. And he's like, so your mind's made up? I said, yeah. I said, and yours should be too. I said, you're not happy. I don't understand why yours isn't. But we both cried. It was sad. I mean, it was sad. So that was the breaking point. The last thing that I'm going to answer really quickly, because here we are in 43 minutes again, is Jamie Lynn asked, do you still melt wax? And I don't want to say I don't. I don't have money to spend on wax. I have my wax warmers out. Do I melt them like I used to melt them? Absolutely not. I've been having the last couple years sinus issues. So, like, scents like that kind of bother me more, but I would love to, and not bother me like it's a big deal. I have sinus issues like every single day. I do love to melt, especially in the summer. I love to melt in the summer, have all the windows open and everything like that, and I love the nice summer scents. But you guys know that I was not, in the winter I got to do pine cones and whatever. Like, I like what I like. I don't really have money to buy wax, so I don't, and I've been out of that, like the groups and everything, for so long. Would I love to start reviewing again? Absolutely. That's something that I really miss doing. I would love to start reviewing again. If you guys know of any way and any shops maybe that I used to review for that would be willing to, or of any new shops that would be looking for a reviewer and you can give a referral, because I have been out of the game for so long, but you guys know what I used to do and the time that I used to put into it. I would love to, but I do still melt wax. I just don't it's not on a daily basis or anything like that, because I haven't found anybody, honestly, that, like I said, I removed myself from all the groups because that was toxic. And I haven't found anybody that I really liked. I mean, I've since forgotten who did I really like and who's still in business. I have no idea. So you guys post down below who were the old schools that I loved, and are they still in business, and how do I get a hold of them? Because I absolutely, I would love to do that again. Anyway, guys, I do have another question from Kim, but those are two big ones. I'm going to leave that for the next video. And I love you guys so much. Please hit the subscribe button, guys. Don't watch without subscribing. I mean, of course you can. I can't tell you what to do. I'm not your real dad. Like Raw Beauty Christie would say. I love when she says that. You're not my real dad. But please subscribe. I noticed, I was looking at my analytics today, and most of my watch are from, you guys watch me, but you're not subscribed. And no notification bell and all other stuff. And I said, because I'm not going to be putting it up on social media due to my church work and stuff like that. Not that but again, there's sensitive subjects that will come up. So just spread the word. And I love you guys so much, and I will see you in the next one. If you have any questions about this video, or again, any other topics you want me to cover, post it down below. Love you guys.